Greetings, viewers. Thanks for joining me in the shop today. Stare down at this dirty wheel on my Tundra. I'm getting ready to do the power stop brake upgrade on this and then fix the rear end. I ain't sure exactly how much of this I'll show, as I've done disc brake jobs on my channel before. Just changing a caliper, not much, but I'll hit the high points and show some pictures maybe. This wheel might not look excessively dirty to some people, but you can see how much brake dust is on the outside of it. It's worse on the inside. Let me go over to the other wheel, find a cleaner spot on my rag. Check this wheel. There's the difference between the two. So way more excessive brake dust on the passenger side versus on the driver's side. So I got my upgraded stuff. I went, of course I'm a power stop fan, so I got the drilled and slotted front rotors. The only brake calipers that they have for my year Tundra are their premium. They are powder coated red, which isn't necessarily a selling point for me. Kind of wish they weren't, but I'm not going to paint them. Screw it, you know. The pads are the extreme for the towing and hauling. So everything I'm putting on the front here is for heavy dutiness. My rear drums have come. Sorry, I got them stored in this car, but that's where I had room. The rears are on the way. I got the drums, but the shoes and hardware are on the way. That's, again, not as big a deal. I've done rear drum brakes as well, too. So I'm waiting on the hardware kit and the pads, and I'll do that. I'll touch on the high points here in the front as I do this, and bleed the brakes and stuff like that. Okay, now to show my suspicions were correct, you can see how crooked this pad is. See how it's got a big gap here and a smaller gap up here? It's worn way crooked. That's the inboard pad. It looks fine like it's supposed to. This outboard pad is worn crooked. This lower piston obviously sticking, upper one probably too. Only things to get it off of there is your line, which is 10 millimeter. And back here in the back, there's a couple of 17s. I'm going to get those loose, get this caliper off of here, put in new pads. It came with new hardware. The rotor, or the caliper did. There it is. It's pretty. I digress, though. I shall replace these, put the new caliper on, the wheel, the rotor, and the pads, and I'll be back. Okay, see how pretty that is? Now I'm getting ready to put it all back together. My only tips for you would be to get the caliper bolts loose, the ones that actually hold it on the back there. You can see the rusty amongst the pretty new red, those two bolts. I got those all the way out. I broke my brake line loose first. I loosened the bleeder on my new caliper before I installed it. I took a hammer and beat my old rotor loose. So I had everything ready to come apart before I took that brake line all the way off, because you start dripping fluid right away. This one flows fantastically because it was dripping like crazy. But try to have everything ready first. There is a grease you're supposed to put on the back of these pads, and they say extreme on them. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I digress. I'm going to put these on with the goop on the back, supposed to help keep brake squeal down. I'm going to have to figure out how to cut a window in my caliper so the word extreme can show through. Extreme! But I digress. Hang on, I'm going to put this back together. I don't think I have any other tips or tricks for the front. Okay, unlike the 4runners that have a wire that connects these two pins, these have individual little push pins for them, or hitch pins, I don't know what you call them, but anyway, I like that. Don't forget to put this thing on. That these little pieces here go in the holes right there. Excuse me. This is to help the pads pull back away from the rotor, and they're necessary to be on there, although, nope, I got them. Yeah, I got them right. I got them right, don't question me. All right, I'm gonna move over to the other side. I think that's all the new hardware and stuff. Man, this is gonna be nice. I can't wait. I'm gonna put the rears on. When you bleed them, you gotta bleed from the right rear, right front, left front. Already gravity bled this one. Gonna go ahead and do the other side and get started on the rear. I'm still waiting on some parts, so I might start fixing on that rear end. I might just put all this together as one kind of a Tundra fix-up video thing here, not sure. So hang on, let me see where this ends up. Okay, well, sometimes things don't go the way I want them to. Just for reference, that's 2 good pads on a rotor that isn't locked up. You can see the nice even wear on them. Well, breaking this bolt loose, I busted this brake line. Sad, but whatever. The ends are good. I've got some more brake line, a cheapy flare tool. I'm going to bust this brake line off, plug it up here, make me another one of sorts, because that's what has to be done. So I'll clue you back in on how to make a brake line here in a minute. All right, well, brake fluid is one of my least favorite fluids because it's so slippery. When I went to take the line out up here, it broke off as well, like so. This one down here is broke off too, like so. I'm gonna need these ends without the hose in them. I got a little one here that I kept, and I put a smashed flat end in it to plug that line off. So here in a minute, I'm going to make that brake line, but in the meantime, that'll keep it from dripping. And of course, while you're in here, don't forget to check your upper ball joints, lower ball joints, tie rod ends, etc. Rust. Anyway, yeah, don't forget to check all that stuff. I want to make this line. It's pretty simple. I'll show you what I do when I get ready to do that. Okay, so I just put one of the little ends there in my vise, and I gotta grab a punch like so to drive that line out. It's kind of a delicate procedure, but it can be did. There it goes. And that piece is out. Now test it on my brake line. Make sure I got the right size brake line. It's got to fit real snug like this one does. So I got the right size brake line. I had to drive the piece out of the other one here, and then I'll show you how I reuse my parts and make a brake line super simple. Well, this one didn't want to punch through with the punch. I did drive the punch into it and get it stuck, and that wasn't good. So I'm going to have to drill it. It kind of will center itself because it's already a hole. I just find the drill bit that is closest to it by sliding it on and off of the other piece. This one is the closest fitting one I had. The line is super soft, so go real slow, let the drill bit kind of guide itself through, and it'll take that down. Now, it's not going to get it quite perfect, but the flare is what keeps the line from leaking, and this will get it so close that I can get that other little sliver out of there. So let me go ahead and drill this out here. And there it went. It got stuck on the drill bit on its way out. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. No, yeah, that's it. Anyway, it's all cut up. The end of it came out. It fell on the floor. I was going to show you how it looked when it came through, but it doesn't matter. So I get that loose. Test fit my brake line on it to make sure it isn't wallered. Still a super nice tight fit. My threads are still good. I actually have other one of these I could have used, but I wanted to show you how to get the line out in case you don't have one of your own. So hope you could see all that. Might have some been out of the camera, but you're probably used to that kind of stuff. Okay, now my piece of tube needs to be kind of bent like that-ish. It's not super crucial. Let me grab my bender real quick. I forgot. Okay, this is a cheesy tube bender, but I like to do things with the bare minimum. It's like doing so much for so long with so little. You could do almost anything with practically nothing, right? Now I went ahead and put a bend on that using this thing here, probably doing this stuff out where you can't see it. So that's all it does. It makes a nice bend without kinking. You can put them around sockets and stuff like that. You got to make sure you got enough room to get that on with room to spin and still flare your end down there, because the flare tool takes up this much of your tube. So I'm actually going to have to beat that on there just a little bit further so that I have room to flare this. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to try to shape this somewhat like this, so at least it's going in the same general place as it was before. That's all that really matters. It actually came out like that and went to the caliper. Let me bend on this and I'll show you how to flare a tube with cheap tools. Okay, my flare tool is not a metric flare tool, but I use the 3/16 because that's closest. You really got to tighten these wing nuts down to hold that tube so it doesn't push through when you're flaring it. But let me get this real tight with my pliers and then I'll show you how to flare it real quick. There's that little piece to show you when I was drilling it out. It started climbing up the drill bit. Then when it got down to the bottom part where it wasn't as rusty, it broke loose and pushed the whole thing on through. So there's really not a lot of risk of ruining your fitting when you drill it. But just be careful, go slow, use the right size drill bit and stuff like that, and you can get it out. I say I have others that I could use. I kind of mashed up the threads on this one, but I did test fit it in both ends on my truck and in the new caliper to make sure the threads were fine. I'm going to go ahead and use it because if you didn't have one, you'd have to use it. And that's what I want to do, show you how to do stuff stupid cheap. I probably forgot to put this on first. Nope, didn't need to. Hope you can see this. It's just a little beveled thing. It's going to go down into this 3/16 piece of tube, which isn't really 3/16. So I use pliers on the ends to cut or to tighten those wing nuts so it holds the tube real well. It's kind of threaded in there. Once you get your point down into your piece of tube that you probably can't really see, but believe me, it's happening. Go real slow. Watch on the back side that it isn't trying to push your tube through your brake line. And just go real nice and slow with it. Apply some good even pressure. You don't want to overdo it or you can split it. And so you can see on the back, it's not pushing it out any because I had it right up against that. So just keep driving that bevel in. When it starts to feel good and snug, stop, because if you go too far, you'll bust it. All right, and you unscrew this part, take it off here, get your pliers back, unscrew this part. Oh, shit. Hang on. Oh, shit. I really got those tight. Hang on. I'm working on it. Jeez Louise. Okay, and then after I cut my other piece of line where it needs to be, I'll flare it to get this apart and show you. See, now you see the flare on your line. These have a rounded flare on them to start with, but that flare will work. It'll fit in against the fitting and make it nice. Use your wrench to get your line back down off your curve. Just kind of thread it back and forth. You want to check your flare. I could probably use pliers and do that a little better. Yeah, you want to check your flare against your end. I'm just running that down where you can't see it. Hang on, let me get it where I want to show you. Okay, so what I was trying to accomplish was to bring that back down to the end. This thing has threads inside of it that grippers or whatever they are. I don't think they're threads, but they're just grippers, but they'll put a little bit of gription on that line. So you kind of got to fuss to get your piece back down. But the important part is to make sure that your bevel fills up that whole piece in there. See how that's a nice fit in there? That's how you want to do it. So I'm going to cut this line, flare the other end, bend it up something similar to this, and I'll meet you back over at the truck, put it on. I think we'll wrap this up. Okay, now I'm going to bend up that other one while I'm over here by the truck, but make sure when you put these in that you get them in the right place, because the one I already put the line and beveled it, see how it has a flat space with no threads. That's the one that goes into your brake line up at the top, and this other one is the one that goes into the caliper down at the bottom. So just want to make sure that you get those right. Actually, let me double check that and make sure that I got those right, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it goes. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I should have listened to myself first time. I was right. The one with all the threads goes in the caliper. The ones with the least amount of threads, or the little flat spot on the end, goes in the brake line. I knew I was right. So anyway, I'm going to put this on, and then I'll close this up, I think. Okay, one more little thing before you put your other end on. Use one of these type of cutters to cut your tube, your line. But when you do, it'll smush it in and make it like a little crown on the top. It's important that you deburr that inside so that you get a nice bevel, so that the pointy part on your beveling tool fits in the center real nice. Then you get a real nice flare. So I kind of cut this brake line to the point where it's going to fit both ends, and now I'm going to go deburr that and then thread, or flare the other end after I put my fitting on. I'll be back to show you the end result. Okay, so there's kind of the long and short of it. I'll show you my brake line. All new goodies, heavy duty, got to do the brake end thing on the pads. Of course, I still have to bleed this, but I want to finish the rears first. Now, my homemade line, of course, is not the same as the line that came from the factory. It doesn't hit. I personally or intentionally turned the wheel this way to make sure it doesn't interfere with anything. I'm going to set it back down here, and oops, I can show you as it goes all the way the other way. Of course, it's not going to interfere with anything in here now. Yeah, I know it doesn't look like the other line, but it flows brake fluid. It isn't going to interfere. It's already filled up and gravity bled this caliper as well. So I'm waiting for my parts to move to the rear. But if you've ever seen me do rear brakes on a 4runner, which I did not too long ago, drum brakes and e-brake rebuild, exact same thing on a slightly larger scale here with the Tundra. So I most likely won't show you that. I just recently did a diff weld to patch a leak. I probably won't show you that. So instead of doing a whole Tundra fix-up video, this took way too long. Just when you are faced with adversity like that broken brake line, don't give up. If you don't have these things, go buy them, because you might need them again. Save old parts to make like plugs with, stuff like that when you get them. I have a plethora of stuff because I've been a Toyota maniac for my whole life, so my garage is full of useless parts. These are nice to have. You can get much nicer ones. This one won't double flare. I've never found a need for it to double flare. The pliers, of course, aren't part of that. But anyway, a little cutter, and make your own line, because when adversity gets in your face, kick adversity in the nuts and make your own parts. Do your own fixins. Buy some power stop upgrades. They still look good in the Lexus, which has had them the longest, which went all through winter, and they still are super shiny. On the 4runner as well. So now all my vehicles have really nice, super shiny new brakes, and I'm excited. So thanks for listening to me ramble on and do a little brake upgrade. This was necessary because of that sticking caliper. I didn't want to just mess with reman calipers. These may be reman through power stop, but like I said, I've always had great luck with their stuff. It said new. When I bought them, they said new, so I'm going to go with new. If I run into anything just super exciting with the rear brakes or welding up that leaky spot on the rear diff, I have an idea for that where I might go crazy and try to make a whole diff cover for it. we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I'm going to put my wheels on, see how pretty my brakes look through my wheels. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to wait till I'm all done and bleed the whole system. That's right. So don't let me forget that. Thanks for tuning in today. Like and subscribe if you want to. Check links if you want to. I keep forgetting to wear my Greetings Viewers t-shirt out here so you can see what they look like. But I do have them available at my Etsy store, and the link is in the description. So appreciate you all for coming and checking out a little bit of work on the Tundra today. Hope it all made sense and mayhaps you learned something. Appreciate you. Have a great day.